Hey there, this is Sarah Marielle with sarahmarielle.com. Today I wanted to bring to your attention something that is very important to me and something that is widely misunderstood by many, and that is fibromyalgia. Fibromyalgia is characterized by widespread pain longer than 3 months, and it affects and changes the way the brain perceives pain, its sensitivity to pain. Researchers believe that the fibromyalgia amplifies the painful sensations by affecting the way that the brain processes the pain signals. So as an invisible illness, even to medical personnel, as there's no test to definitively say, yes, you have fibromyalgia, but instead it is basically an exclusionary diagnosis, meaning they've done everything else they can to find out what's wrong and nothing seems to be there. It tends to be hard for people to understand and cope with fibromyalgia. I mean, it's invisible, nobody else can see it, but it's very real and it really can affect people in a very severe way. The causes of fibromyalgia are not clearly understood by researchers. However, what we do know so far is that it can be caused by traumatic events. So for example, a physical trauma could be a car accident, like in my case. It could also be a mental trauma in which there's been extreme mental duress. Illnesses can trigger it, or genetics. So in genetics, this can be caused by genes that are responsible for processing pain. They may be passed on and they're a little more sensitive than others. More than likely, if you have family members with fibromyalgia, your chances of having fibromyalgia are increased. So the symptoms of fibromyalgia can be very widespread, very broad, and they can vary from day to day, from hour to hour, from minute to minute, and it's very unique person to person. It's been such a struggle for me myself to cope with my daily limitations because there's no constant. It's a constant fluctuation, if there's any constant at all. So some of these symptoms can include chronic muscle pain, such as tightness and spasms. Other issues can be stiffness and pain upon waking or staying in one position for too long. And of course, it can be all the time or it can be intermittent. The next is fatigue, which can be moderate or severe. In my case, it has been pretty severe, but we'll go ahead and talk more about my symptoms and my experience with fibromyalgia in the next video. This fatigue can be exhausting to walk to the grocery store or even making a meal such as dinner. Sleep disturbances such as insomnia or unrefreshed sleep even after they've slept for 8+ hours, or in my case 10 to 12 hours a night, and still waking up feeling exhausted. Reduced tolerance for exercise and muscle pain after exercise is also another big thing that can really become debilitating in some. We'll go ahead and discuss that in the next video much more in depth. Cognitive disturbances are also something people with fibromyalgia have to deal with. It can be pretty difficult to remember, to concentrate, to focus, performing simple mental tasks, and this is something we term fibro fog. And that's something that I've dealt with a lot and I still struggle with day to day, even with my medication. It can be very difficult for me to perform this kind of task here, which is tell you about fibromyalgia, because there's kind of like a floating, foggy thought process that it can just be such a challenge to get through a thought. So that's why I have my lovely little notes here. And this is called fibro fog, if I haven't mentioned that already. There's also issues such as reading and following through with recipe instructions, which it takes me a really long time to make meals sometimes, because if because of this issue where I just can't seem to concentrate and focus and remember and recall long enough to go from point A to point B. There's also some people that suffer from sensitivity to odors, sounds, lights, medications, foods, cold. For me, I have sensitivity to cold. I can't tolerate it very well without my muscles and my joints seizing up and just lots of widespread pain. The numbness and tingling is another sensation that fibromyalgia sufferers deal with, and this can be like a tingling under the skin, almost like a crawling sensation. It can be constant or it can be intermittent. There's also the sensation of burning or a severe searing pain that is just under the skin, and it's just, I've personally dealt with both, and it can be very crippling in some degrees, and fortunately I found ways to help minimize and reduce this, which we'll talk about in a future video. With fibromyalgia comes quite a few comorbidities or other conditions that are concurrent or occur with fibromyalgia. And these are commonly seen as depression and anxiety, as irritable bowel syndrome. There's also tension or migraine headaches, and even temporomandibular joint disorders. These would be like the sore jaw and facial tenderness. These symptoms may worsen with fatigue, with tension, with stress, and of course stressors such as anxiety and depression, other emotional distress. Lack of activity can cause more of a flare, same as excess activity, overexertion. Weather and temperature changes are also a huge thing that can really affect people who suffer with fibromyalgia. Whenever there's a major change in weather, it can cause a lot of joint pain and muscle pain, and it just really aggravates the situation. There's also hormonal fluctuations, such as around when women have their periods or during menopause. It can also flare up quite a bit. But that's the end of this video, and I really hope to see you next time. There's still so much more to discuss about fibromyalgia, but I hope this has helped clear that up a little bit for you. So, signing off, Sarah Marielle. Be well, wellness besties.